We are going back to basics for our videos today. We're going to talk about a mech, we're going to point and laugh at the Capellans, and we're going to have a great time, as God intended.
Yippee!
Yeah, it's right up our wheelhouse, because the topic of the day is a battle mech that on paper isn't horrendous, but with how it was used and what it was expected to do, it was little better than a death trap for the poor mech warriors assigned to pilot it.
I don't know, man. It looks horrendous, so I'm gonna say it was, even if on paper.
Okay, that's the old art mostly, because again, old BattleTech art is terrible, but yeah, we can kind of agree, it looked absolutely awful. Everything is bad.
Absolute dog shit.
The mech is so badly proportioned in the old artwork, and it ranges from being like just comedically top heavy or incredibly fat looking. Just everything about the old art is terrible. However, getting into the actual video, the Vindicator is a 45-ton Capellan medium mech that is essentially a panic design thrown together last minute to fill any and every of the yawning chasms in the Capellan armed forces that opened up after the merciless beating they took in the First Succession War. It suffered at the hands of very stupid corporate politicking, rushed design cycles, and battlefield conditions that doomed this thing to mediocrity for most of its life.
So normal challenges. It just simply sucked, is what I'm hearing here.
Yes, but okay, like, not all stupid ideas are Capellan, but all Capellan ideas are stupid, okay? That's kind of the...
Okay.
That's kind of where we're going for this. The people that built it are not bad at making mechs. They have made some amazing weapon platforms. This is literal design by committee hell, which we will get into. It's also plagued by the 45-ton curse, which is also very real and hurts it. But yeah, the Vindicator, a wonderful, awful, unlucky, fugly, kind of successful, very funny Capellan medium mech that really was a crutch keeping the old man up from dying. This mech may single-handedly have stopped the Capellans from getting absolutely slaughtered, like round 2. Probably not, but it definitely did help by just giving them enough bodies to throw into the fires that were the Succession Wars. Before we get into things though, quick introductions, generic greetings, welcome to Science and Sanity. I'm Sai, my co-host and comedic relief minion is named Steve. Introduce yourself, Steve.
Hello, I am Steve.
That started out a lot more enthusiastic than normal and then died even more than normal. You going for a more extreme take on that one, or you want to try again?
No. We do have to give them some slight variation at times. I don't enjoy it, but I do have to throw them a bone occasionally.
You have to pretend like you care even a little bit sometimes. So we'll start with some backstory. We've gone over the First Succession War and the Capellans plenty, which I assume you remember nothing of. Am I correct?
I remember the Capellans are absolute dog shit and should all die, perish. And they pretty much all do.
Yeah, that's not there's going to be a lot of very angry Capellan fans in the comments. Every time you go off on the Capellans, there's always comments that are like, no, my favorite faction. Don't talk shit about the only faction that should have lost. They are the smallest successor states by size. They kind of make up for this by having a much denser than normal spread of colonized worlds, but this is unfortunately a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it means they have way shorter distances for travel, for internal trade and troop movements and industry, while needing less logistics, since they're, more planets within the range of one jump. On the flip side, it also means that anyone invading is never more than a jump or two away from very vitally important Capellan worlds, which is why they take disproportionately ridiculous amounts of damage after each succession war. Even their capital world is barely more than a few jumps away from the border with the Free Worlds League, and after every succession war, the Free Worlds League just eats a little more of that buffer. So during the First War, the Capellans had to defend, literally everything. There was no industrial hub or shipyard or population center that was safe just by virtue of distance. All the other successor states really only had to protect their borders. The Cappies had to guard basically every square inch of their territory. And during the First War, this was taken advantage of because constant raids and invasions were launched into their space from every direction. Do you need a picture of the Capellan Confederation to, remember what their territory looked like?
It's the yellow one on the big map.
No, that's so unbelievably wrong.
That's it's the purple one on the big map.
Okay, are you actually fucking with me right now? Is this like a joke?
I plead the fifth.
My brother in Christ, they're the green faction. They're you named both successor states on either side of them. If I average your guesses, you would be right. Come on, Steve. For fuck's sake. It can't be that hard. There's only 5 things to remember. How is it that hard?
I just remember they suck, man. Leave it alone.
Oh my god. Anyways, that picture I just posted is after the first Succession War. You can see that it looks like there was like a dozen different thrusts into their territory, because there were. They were basically invaded on all fronts, every direction, simultaneously, and they just couldn't hold. They did reclaim a lot of the territory from the Federated Suns, not all of it, but a decent amount. The Free Worlds League, however, basically just rocked their shit, and despite putting up a quite heroic defense, their industrial worlds were absolutely ravaged, their reserves were totally drained, their armed forces were mangled basically beyond repair, and they would not be able to recover before their enemies did and came back for round 2, and everybody knew this. This is why and how and where their ridiculous backstabbing, politicking nature came from, because they kind of realized, or everybody in the setting kind of realized, that the Capellans were on the dinner menu. They really didn't have a lot of backbone to put up against future invasions. So they went extremely heavily into intelligence warfare, trying to one-up their enemies with tech and strategy, generally being duplicitous little backstabbing shits, and then hiring an ungodly amount of mercenaries to try and bulk up their numbers for future conflicts. Into this incredible gap stepped Ceres Metal Industries, a massive megacorp that was one of the biggest suppliers of Capellan hardware. Before we get into anything else, this also explains all the faults, deficiencies, and problems with this mech going forward, because the Vindicator was not a product designed by Ceres Metals and sold to the Capellans. It was designed by a committee of Capellan bureaucrats. Several dozen political officials spent several months stacking idea after idea on top of one another and throwing pointless buzzwords around boardrooms until finally coming to Ceres and having them build a ridiculous amalgamation weapon based on everything they had asked. Give the mech a big punchy gun. Oh, now give it a one-off water cooling system because fucking no lol, lamau. Give it tons of jump jets for mobility, but make sure to save weight for other stuff. It needs all the armor, but it also has to be well protected from every angle. It needs weapons for every range, but make sure they aren't ammo dependent. Also, it can't overheat, so it needs to have tons of heat sinks, but it can't be overweight and it can't be too heavy. It also needs to be cheap. And on and on and on it goes. And I imagine there was probably moments during this where the series engineers got conflicting requirements, like bullet point 20, it has to be a heavy mech, bullet point 50 has to be a light mech, and the poor designers are just looking at it like, what?
I think you put those bullet points a little bit too far apart. I think it was probably actually one after the other.
Bullet point 1, it has to be a heavy mech. Bullet point 2, it has to be a light mech.
Bullet point 3, medium.
Series was just like, you know what, we're boned whatever we do, so aim for the middle, average it out. We'll get a medium mech
Bullet
out of
point
it.
4, make it a tank.
Make it a tank. Yeah, but it's really bad. When you look at the end result of all the things they added onto it and the way it's designed, the Vindicator ended up being just a very underwhelming mech that very clearly has no defined purpose. Like, it very clearly fits no battlefield role with the way that they set this thing up.
I think it fits the battlefield role. I think it fits the one that you send out there when you need something to blow up.
Cannon fodder. Target practice? Cannon fodder?
I wasn't going with those. I was going for like an actual explosion. If we were just going out there to be like a punching bag, I would say cannon fodder, but then you say this shit explodes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going with
we said that pre-recording before I started it, but yes,
okay.
The cockpit has a habit of exploding if you touch the eject button, but we will get to that a little bit later. We're about to get to the reason for it right now. One of the worst sins that this committee committed, that's terrible language, I'm going to rephrase that.
Yeah, please don't ever say that again.
Yes. Even worse is because the Capellans needed to rebuild their industry and stimulate some economic regrowth after the shit kicking they took, they demanded that Ceres Metals also include equipment and parts from other manufacturers. Not necessarily terrible. There are a lot of mech companies that source parts from other manufacturers, but when one of your core demands is also being dirt cheap with no bottlenecks in spare parts supply, so they can just mass produce everything.
To that.
Yeah, it's not the smartest idea to subcontract out and forego vertical integration. But like I mentioned, like right at the beginning of the video, not every stupid idea is Capellan, but every Capellan idea is stupid. And the end result was the Vindicator 1X, a mech that met most of the requirements put forth, but most is unacceptable. So they rejected the design and forced Series Metals to change it, as well as including a weapon from another company, which Series tried to just ignore because it was a stupid idea. So instead of swapping out anything important, they swapped the one machine gun it had for anti-infantry and light vehicle stuff to a small laser from Hessen Mechworks. The bare minimum they could do to technically hit that checkbox.
Pigeon laser?
Yeah, this anti-pigeon laser, that's what this is.
Anyway, install the pigeon laser. Let's make our thing explode.
Yeah, no, that... This pigeon laser would go on to kill more Capellan mech warriors than I think the Davians did. But that's a story for when we talk about the ejection system. However, despite the absolute hell Series engineers probably went through in order to make this thing work, they did end up get it working, and they did make it for absolute dirt cheap. How much of that is strong-arming from the government or potential backroom dealing, I have no idea, but the Vindicator came out at just under 3.2 million C-bills, which is dirt cheap for a medium mech. That's on the price point of a machine that's like 10 to 15 tons lighter than it. So despite any and every flaw we will be getting to, it is a pretty decent purchase. Like, alone, yeah, the Vindicator is kind of dog shit. It gets just completely outperformed by most other medium mechs and stands not a snowball's chance in hell against any of the heavies, but it was never designed to be deployed alone or as the anchor for a mech lance. It was always intended to be used as a low-cost swarm unit that bulks out all the gaps in the Capellan armed forces. And in that role, it did perform quite well as the backbone of targets and fodder for the much more important mechs that they're trying to preserve.
It did just, in fact, perform. I don't know if I'll go with quite well, but...
The Vindicator performed. It did end up pairing surprisingly well with heavier units like Warhammers or Marauders, or especially the Thunderbolt, which is another domestic...
Is there actually a mech called a fucking Warhammer in this?
How have we not gone... Dude, that's like the heavy mech.
I don't know, man. You're the one that scripts these. How have we not gone over it?
I swear to God, I've mentioned the Warhammer at least like 100 times.
You might have. You also might have just done it in the videos by yourself. I also might just be, have dementia.
Well, you barely remember. You couldn't even remember how many successor states there were. So yeah, maybe you do. Maybe you do have like
8 of them.
Is your brain like a sponge? Do you just have a lot of holes?
I think it's more like a tunnel. I think it's more like a tunnel with the headset.
Insert that Wojak meme of just a hole through your head. Has to go on the list then, I guess, of stuff we have
40,000 of them built. 400,000.
Warhammer 40 million. I don't know, dude. There's a lot of Warhammers, okay? It's a very popular mech. They build them in monstrous numbers. Everybody wants them. They're fantastic. They're also just like the face of reliable, hard-hitting heavy mechs, so they tend to be everywhere in lore and out of lore because people just really like that mech. Like I was trying to say, though, the Vindicator is quite good when used with these other bigger mechs, either because they serve as meat shields for much harder hitting or much more competent vehicles to do damage while they absorb shots, or they use a much bigger, much scarier mech like a Thunderbolt, which distracts the enemy, and then they just lay in with supporting fire from their one particle cannon and maybe some chip damage with their LRM launcher, and that's pretty much it. So the Vindicator is in this weird spot where it's a 45-ton mech that's like really dirt cheap, but it's also really cost-effective to mass, but it's also kind of shit for a 45-tonner. Part of its whack-ass design is the 45-ton curse. Like, mechs in this weight category just do not have the sauce. Like, it's in that perfect weight bracket to get the worst of light and medium mech downsides with basically none of the benefits.
Maybe they should figure out a way to out-engineer these issues, or simply just stop making mechs in that weight bracket.
So we're finally going to get to the cockpit bit, and there is no retreat when you're piloting this mech. Retreat is not an option. It may as well be a Capellan Commissar with how ready it is to murder anyone trying to run away, because that small laser we talked about earlier, but it created a massive bulge inside the mech's cockpit and outside on the side of the head, and it not only made it damn near impossible for tall or fat mech warriors to use the damn thing. Like, legitimately, this is real T-34 hours here. We're talking like maximum height is 5'4" short kings, only people capable of piloting it comfortably. Otherwise, you were just like crammed in there like a sardine.
Don't even say comfortably on that. It's just piloting it. Also, ton of innuendos on that first bit of this.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. But the ejection button also doubled as the instantaneous gratuitous suicide button, okay? Death by either instant explosion or pancaking, since when you hit the eject, that head-mounted laser and the bulge it created interfered with it. So you had a pretty decent chance of something going wrong with the rocket motor and just blowing up, or you'd smash into the weapon mounting and die, or you'd smash into the roof canopy and die because it couldn't open from the laser mounting, resulting in the stupefaction of the poor pilot who would be smashed into it at the approximate speed of about to meet God. It is so painful that this is even in there, and the best part is how little of a shit the Capellans gave over this. You'd think that this would be like a serious issue. You know, like, oh, if our mech warriors try to eject, they might just die. It's like roll a d6, if it's 3 or down, you just instantly die. But no, they didn't care. The Vindicator was developed in 28-26, and they didn't fix this issue until 3040. It took them over 200 years to be like, our pilots seem to be dying a lot when they pull the ejection. Maybe we should fix that so it isn't killing all of our experienced pilots who use it, huh?
They had a total of 3 pilots die from it or something because they just got blown up beforehand.
No
chance to eject.
No, that's not what it. No, this isn't a minor issue. This isn't something you can.
Look, man, the R&D team was on it. Leave them alone.
No, look, okay. Look, I've been guilty of exaggerating some minor downsides before for comedic effects, but this one is not a minor downside. This is not like one random unlucky shitter that took a headshot earlier ends up dying because something got messed up, okay? That's not what this is. This is such a prevalent problem that even main characters that are like in line for the succession of the great houses are getting fucking murdered by this thing. There was a character called Candice Liao, okay? Very important for the story. Basically main character in a lot of events that happen in that region. And this happened to her and she almost died. She suffered horrendous broken bones and terrible burns when she tried to eject from her Vindicator and it almost killed her. Nobody is safe from this. That's how widespread it is. This person is a literal noble. She was going to be married off to, I don't remember exactly who, but a member of the Merrick royal family to try to like secure an alliance or something during a Purple Bird civil war. This was a really important character and that she almost dies in the cockpit of her Vindicator. They couldn't even be fucked to fix it for that level of character. This is so blatant and so prevalent. This is like, again, it's a 50-50. Just roll a d6. If it's 3 down, you die. Hope you roll well. And remember how I joked earlier that they had a weird water cooling system? I want you to guess what that's
the
for.
one-of-a-kind water cooler.
Yeah, the one-of-a-kind water cooling
Is it for the
system.
pigeon laser?
It's not for the pigeon laser.
Is it for the cockpit?
No. Yeah, okay, you're focusing too much on the cock.
Keep the pilots cool.
Okay, look at the pictures.
Look, man, I'm not focusing that much on the cock, okay?
You are focusing way too much on the cockpit here, all right? Okay, its right arm has the giant gun, okay? You see how its entire right arm is basically just a gun? But if you look on it, you'll notice it's got a whole bunch of, like, channels carved into it. Those exist so that the mech can dip the weapon into a body of water and then take a slurp, cooling the weapon and releasing huge amounts of steam from the rear of the weapon assembly and presumably instantly broiling any fish unlucky enough to be caught up in all of this. Do you think this was a good idea?
It's an elephant?
A little bit, yeah. Do you think it was a good idea, though? Do you think it worked?
No.
Well, you'd be
I'm
wrong.
gonna say the salt water could pose some issues.
It did work, but this is a monkey's paw situation. It worked perfectly fine, but unfortunately, its use would probably get you killed.
So what did we blow up from it?
I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here and then we'll loop back around, all right? So at first glance, this isn't necessarily a stupid idea. There are tons of mechs that benefit from water cooling, but they have stuff like heat sinks that they mount in the legs or the feet or whatever, and they're primarily used on very water-rich or very cold, icy worlds, okay? Because the heat sinks work a lot better transferring heat through water or snow or ice by like direct contact rather than just the air. The issue is that those systems work passively. As long as the mech is like moving around or standing or doing anything really, the heat sinks just work better as long as they're mounted in those locations. The Vindicator's water cooling required the mech find a body of water, ponderously walk over, kneel down while not moving before placing the barrel into the water, and it had to be deep enough water, by the way, because if it was like silty or a muddy ditch or something, the water cooling system would get jammed with mud and other debris, and then it would be a nightmare to clean out. Then, if everything was perfect, it had to kneel down and just sit there for a while the weapon cooled off with water. This is worthless. This is just wasted tonnage. Do you want to take a guess why, Steve?
I'm gonna say it was about a sixth of the weight of the mech.
No. Why was it so useless? Is what I meant. Like, why do you?
Said it's wasted tonnage, and then you said why. So we were.
Yeah, but no. Just use that big, wrinkly, hole-filled brain of yours and think. Okay, you have to stop, kneel down, and put your weapons underwater.
Typically, if you're not moving, you're dying in an open area.
Yes.
Typically.
Yes. Exactly. Because in what universe would you ever be in a combat situation where the correct move is to stop fighting, stop moving, take a knee, and then just wait for a minute while you cool down so you don't put as much stress on your heat sinks?
Whichever universe these guys thought they were fighting in.
Like, it's a novel idea, and the idea of, like, pumping water through your system to really quickly cool it down is not necessarily a shit idea. Like, I could imagine a mech having, like, water pumps or something in their legs, so they've got leg-mounted heat sinks, and they water cool that shit. Like, that's not necessarily a terrible idea, but why would you put it on your main weapon, requiring you to stand still and put your main weapon underwater to the point where you can't aim it at the enemy? Like, who designed this? Why would you ever do this? If you ever tried this, like, if you even had the opportunity, like, you were lucky enough to be fighting next to a river or a lake, and then you can just, like, quickly dip in to then fire back at the enemy or something, every single Davian mech warrior would literally just go, ooh, free target practice, followed by that Vindicator receiving like a gigafucktillion autocannon rounds directly to the forehead, and then dying instantly. And I guarantee you, a new or bad mech warrior tries this, and I wouldn't put it past them to just epically fail the proverbial PSR and fall over while they're doing it. You have no idea what that is, do you?
No, it's a sniper rifle in Battlefield 6.
Okay, yeah, no, it's piloting skill roll, or like pilot skill roll. Basically, it's like, hey, you're doing a maneuver. Are you good enough to not fall on your dick as soon as you try it?
The answer is no for most people.
Yeah, I would imagine doing this in combat, especially if you were trying to like slow down really fast on soggy, marshy terrain, would not be good for a lot of mech warriors. It just seems like a really bad system. And it's not like the armor would protect it either, because here's the thing, the Vindicator is pretty heavily armored for a mech of its tonnage. Like, it's not absurdly well protected, but it's also not weak. Unfortunately, the armor's not really spread out in a way that helps much because of that whole protected from any angle thing that the committee wanted. So while the Vindicator does have above average protection, a lot of that extra armor point goes to the rear torsos and the legs and stuff, and the rest of its armor is just nothing special. So unless the Vindicator pilot plans on showing his back to the enemy, a lot of that extra armor really isn't going to be doing much to protect it. I mean, I guess it helps if you're retreating, which, to be fair, the Capellans do a lot of, so...
I feel like that's more just a design flaw, though. Or they could have known that that's just, like, what they do, so that's what they designed it around. That might not be a stupid idea on there.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there was a really, I was about to say really famous, but then I immediately forgot their name. Anyways, they piloted a hunchback.
He's so famous that you've never heard of him.
Yeah, I know, right? Not even Jack Sparrow level famous. But this mech warrior, she piloted a hunchback, had a heavy Gauss rifle, and she had a nasty habit of not managing her footing well, so every time she fired it, she'd fall over backwards. She'd get knocked over by the recoil.
Is she stupid?
A little bit, yeah. And then
Okay.
the mech techs just put a whole bunch of extra armor on the rear of her mech so that when she fell over, it wouldn't keep doing damage to the internals. This might be one of those situations where the Capellans were like, well, we're probably going to get our ass beat regardless, so when we're retreating, we'll take less casualties getting chased down or something. I don't know. But another big problem for this mech was also the engine. Yeah, they crammed a lot of stuff into the Vindicator, and, well, they had to save weight somewhere. So the engine is, frankly, underpowered. The Vindicator is not a fast mech. It's barely enough to keep up with heavies, and most mediums and pretty much all lights will outrun this thing quite easily. It's not exactly slow from an objective standpoint, but it sure as shit ain't fast. The only mobility it really has comes from the jump jets that the thing carries, and which I firmly believe took up the tonnage that would have gone for a bigger engine. But the jump jets do kind of compensate for that lack of mobility by allowing it to just jump over obstacles or rough terrain or buildings and stuff that its lackluster speed won't let it run around. So overall, the Vindicator is a very mech battle mech, and even with the Capellans producing it by the truckload, it didn't find any adoption outside the Confederation. It was both because of its lacking performance, but also because the Capellans, for some reason, I guess they were just really sentimentally attached to it for some reason, because they would not sell it to anyone without a monstrous markup on spare parts and bits and bobs. Like 40,000 C-bills per hammer level of markup, okay? Like, they were charging a redonkulous premium on a very mediocre mech.
They just love the thing, man. They wanted them all for themselves.
I guess, yeah. They were high on their own product. They were just like, oh, man, these Vindicators, man, we can't give them out to anyone. They'll learn our secret sauce if they get their hands on it, despite the fact that the secret sauce was just pain, misery, and suffering. And with that, let's go over its statistics. The default Vindicator that ended up going into mass production and is basically the standard for the vast majority of its history is the Vindicator 1R. This is the one that was produced in 2826. Coming in at 45 tons, it runs at 64 kph, which is not great. Again, not exactly slow, not exactly fast.
I don't know, man. That seems pretty slow.
It carried a particle cannon in the main arm, which served as main weapon and the bulk of its damage. Supplementing that was a medium laser in the other arm, a bank of 5 long-range missiles in the torso, and that stupid anti-pigeon laser that kept getting pilots killed up there in the head. It's like a beautiful little laser pointer for the pilot. He can look at things and zap them directly. How wonderful. Now, in my personal opinion, the LRM-5 is straight up just wasted tonnage. You would dead ass be better taking that whole thing out, taking out the small laser, and then putting 2 more medium lasers on this thing with a couple more heat sinks probably, because that would just be a significantly better loadout. All energy, particle cannon, 3 medium lasers, probably a pretty decent 45 tonner. Now, they had to go for the missiles for obligatory chip damage and a little bit of light pepper in at distance just to annoy the enemy. Gotta scratch their paint or something, I guess.
Gotta dent the armor, man. We gotta make them spend a couple $1 million in the new paint.
That wouldn't really happen. Most of the time on campaign, when mechs take small damage like that, they just don't bother repairing the paint scheme. They just replace the armor and then move on good enough. Because, like, A, they probably don't have a lot of paint when you're on a military deployment. And B, it's really not a priority for the mech techs. Every second they spend painting a mech is 1 second they don't spend repairing another one. However, this weapons loadout did have one huge advantage, which I will give to it. With the 16 heat sinks that the Vindicator carried, it was heat negative, which meant that if it was just standing still and not doing anything, it could fire every single one of its weapons and not overheat every single round of combat. So that is quite an advantage. You never have to pick and choose what weapons you're going to fire, which I would then add only makes the water cooling even more unbelievably redundant, because if you put enough heat sinks in the mech to be fine anyways, why did it need this? Why did you add this?
We wanted to be special. Leave them alone, sir. They wanted to develop the technology.
The Capellan engineers are plenty special. Don't worry, I agree with you there. This water cooling system makes me so irrationally angry the more I looked into it, because I'm like, there's no reason this exists. This is literally just some stupid whatever the fuck they added to it for, I don't even know. I guess they thought it was cool.
It was a proof of concept. They were going to use it for some other stuff, and they just simply proved it did not work. So miraculously, they were smart enough not to put it on something else.
I guess, yeah. Powering all of this was a GM 180 rating engine that pushed it to 64 kph, and a 180 rating is low for a medium mech. Like, that's really the kind of engine you would expect to see on a light mech. So it's a little underpowered, in my opinion. I think add like another 20, 30 rating to that. You make it like a 200, a 210 or something. I think you're very much in like the range that a medium wants to have. On to a couple of variants. Now, this was the 1R. There is one variant that I think must be mentioned, which is the 1AA, also known as the Avenging Angel. This one was designed, or I guess I should say prototyped, about 40 years later, 2863, and it was designed on giving the mech better maneuverability. Do you want to take a wild guess how they did this?
Did we, I'm gonna say we did not upgrade the engine, so...
No, they
did
actually
we strip
did.
off some of the back armor?
If you had said they upgraded the engine and then stripped the armor, I would have been like, yeah, you're right, because that's what they did. So they upgraded the engine a little bit. So it's now what I consider to be reasonably fast. This is a pretty good speed for the mech. It's 86 kilometers per hour. They upgraded the rating quite a bit. And then they added an extra jump jet to further increase the range that it could go. Now, how did they get the weight savings for this? Because, you know, that's like 4 tons, right? That's quite a bit. They stripped off like 60% of the armor.
Hopefully all at the back.
There was not enough armor on the back, baby. They had to take that from everywhere. This is miserable. This version was so fragile and so poor performing on the battlefield, even by Capellan standards, that they gave up on it and gifted all of the Avenging Angels to the Free Rosselhog Republic as a show of solidarity. So the Rosselhog Republic spawns into the game, basically, and then gets gifted a whole bunch of these as a white elephant. Because these things are useless. The Capellans literally just wanted to get rid of them, but none of the other factions would take it, so they're just like, you know what? The only faction...
None of them were stupid enough to...
Yeah, they're like, who is the most desperate we could possibly give it to? And they gave it to the Free Rosselhog Republic. And Rosselhog took one look at them and was like, you know what? We're just gonna refit all of these, because it would be better than trying to use them. Very, very, very bad. There was also the Vindicator drone, which is the 3LD. And I think this one is actually really, really cool, because what they essentially did was convert this thing into a drone mech. They replaced the cockpit, increasing the weight by 5.5 tons to accommodate a robotic drone control and all the stuff that goes along with that, as well as replacing a bunch of the heat sinks, removing them, and replacing them with doubles so that they could save on tonnage. And instead of a pilot, these were controlled by an AI controller. Do you remember... Oh, fuck. Did you do the Nostromo Nightmare episode with me? The Halloween episode, the one with the horrible AI called The Broken and that hell world that kills everyone that steps on it. God damn it. I have dementia. I had this whole thing where I was going to be like, hey, you remember Nostromo? You remember The Broken? You remember all of this stuff?
Yeah, I remember the Nostromo. I remember there was a alien-looking creature on that drawing.
Wrong setting. Yeah, I was going to be like, hey, remember all of that? And then I was going to be like, yeah, the Vindicator 3LD is the drone version. Guess what's controlling this one? And then it would be The Broken. And I had this whole thing where you were going to be like, oh shit, it's that thing. No, but you weren't even there. Not only would you not remember it normally, you weren't even there to remember it at all. Oh, this was
this is your fault for not including me in the first Halloween video, and I got very mad at you for not including me in that first Halloween video.
Did you even care?
Remember, it was like the Ghost Mech drawing in the first Ghost Mech drawing. You did like 3 stories in it or something.
That wasn't the Ghost Mech one. The Ghost Mech one wasn't for Halloween. That was like 4 months early, and people laughed at me for it.
Then I don't want to fucking know.
You weren't mad at me for not being in that episode, from what I remember.
This is, in fact, the Dementia channel. Welcome into Dementia Central.
Dementia such. You weren't mad at me for not being in the episode. You were mad at me because I was an idiot and I uploaded a great Halloween video like 4 months before Halloween. That's what you were mad about. What do you?
Probably that too.
No, I think that's.
Well,
what
no,
you...
I was still mad that I wasn't in it because I like the.
What do you mean? You're always happy when you're not in videos because it means I don't have to bug you on a night off or whatever.
Well, it depends.
Anyways, that entire segment was completely ruined. So, you know what? We're basically at the end of the video. I'm just going to go for one more because I thought it was really funny. The Vindicator 1R is a custom variant from a pilot named Major Chong Vong.
What a name.
Shut the hell up. Don't lie. This entire this entire refit was literally him just taking the head laser off and putting it in the arm instead, which I don't know why they didn't do that initially. And the entire reason he did it was both to make the eject system safer, but also he was a very, very, very fat man and it was a very cramped cockpit. So he customized the mech to make it a little bit more accommodating for his rather rotund frame. And I just found that absolutely...
He's a fat man in a little cockpit.
That's basically it. That's the Vindicator. Anyways, though, that brings us to the end of the video. I have basically nothing else to say on this. Would you like to contribute any final thoughts before we do the outro, Steve?
Nope.
No? Okay. Well, if you made it this far, you are clearly a fan, or you found the video entertaining, or you're just a rabid Capellan hater and you stuck around for the vibes, in which case... you're in good company.
We stand with you.
We stand with you. So why not leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, ring the bell button, check some of our stuff out, do all of that stuff that helps out against the YouTube algorithm. It would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, I heard hyping the video is a thing now on mobile. That's apparently something that you can do.
Unfortunately, I am not a mobile peasant, and I'm not willing to pay $5 to listen to music on YouTube while my phone's in my pocket, so I have no idea what that is.
I just heard some other people say it, so if you see it, if you're on mobile and you see it, I don't know, do it or something. Let us know what it actually does.
If you are feeling more generous, you can also join our channel members, which means you get access to videos a day or two early, occasionally get to vote on future video topics that get made, very occasionally get cut content and behind the scenes stuff as members only videos, and you throw money at our Staying Alive fund. We do have a Discord where you can shoot the shit with fellow turbo nerds, hang out, play video games, talk about nerd stuff, generally just be a nerd. And to all the people already supporting the channel, to all the coffee vendors, a huge thanks to you guys for supporting the channel. With your help, I will one day never sleep again. My blood will be pure caffeine and I shall ascend. To all the food merchants, making sure that my co-host is ever fed and docile for these videos, not trying to escape, thank you all very much as well. To the arms dealers supplying all the tools and toys seen in today's video for hands-on testing and experience, thank you guys very much. I have a massive pile of Vindicators in the neighborhood, and it probably cost you guys like all of $50. Real Temu vibes in here. Thank you very much for your support as well. I greatly appreciate it. And with that, I have basically nothing else to say. The video is pretty much over. I'll see you for the next one. Goodbye!